We interrupt this message for a very important broadcast. Welcome to the Distillery on PodX.
I'm going to be honest with you, that smells like pure gasoline.
Yeah, friends, we are live. Thanks a lot for tuning in for the Distillery, episode 15. I'm excited for today's particular episode. One of the things that has really interested me of late is things that are handcrafted. The old way of doing things. And even this morning, I caught myself watching about 40 minutes of old leather crafting videos and how the tools and stuff remain the same, and the product it takes an incredible hand to produce something. Well, it's the same thing with a luthier. Now, a luthier is defined as somebody that builds a stringed and boxed instrument, and I'm sure our guest today will be able to describe it in much more detail. Friends, we're going to talk guitars, we're going to talk music, and God knows what else, because we're already drinking. Friends, it's David Gilmore.
Hey. Cheers, my friend.
Thanks a lot for joining me for the show, buddy.
I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you for having me. This should be a lot of fun.
Now, I was showing some friends photos of the work that you've done, and they're just fascinated with how much old school tools that you've been using, because I've been showing pictures of your shop. Now, is that by design that you prefer to do it that way with these old ways of doing things? Or is it because, it is, because I'm wondering if there's newer ways to do it, right?
Oh, absolutely. I'm probably one of the few guys that builds in the fashion that I do. I am strictly a hand crafter of guitars. That means lots of chisels. I mean, I do have power tools. Got a couple of bandsaws and a drum sander and routers and Dremels and all that sort of stuff. But essentially everything I do is handcraft. And there's lots of builders who are boutique builders that are using CNC machines. And they use the CNC to replicate. So they can make parts and assemble their guitars. So they're still crafting in a shop. But when you're using CNC, you can build faster and you can build more consistently.
Right. Hey, Gil, can you do me one quick favor before I continue? We have a mobile that we're going to use later. Can you turn that right on completely silent? I'm getting a slight little bit of feedback, and we'll utilize that later. I appreciate it.
Okay. Shut it off for now.
So one of the things we need to talk about when it comes to building a guitar is what interests me the most. When I look at your shop, and the wood that you use is not only cosmetic, but it's sound, right? So when you're choosing how to put together a guitar, what exactly is going through your head, and how do you lay out all the pieces?
Well, and this is something that I started right from the very beginning when I started building guitars. Is I've always started every project with the end in mind. So I had a clear picture in my mind's eye of what the guitar was going to look like. So I would pull the wood from the stash, put it there, and pull binding, and just so I know what plan it's going to be, which model I'm going to build. I always have sort of an aesthetic in mind right from the very start. Sound wise, there's everything that you do, every little thing from a chisel, taking a piece of wood off of a brace to sanding the top is going to inform the final sound of the guitar.
Well, I think that leads us into your experience too. When was the first guitar that you built? Because you had mentioned you had taken a course, which kind of launched this whole thing for you. How long ago was that, and where did you do it?
I took the course in 1995. It was at Timeless Instruments in Tegasky, Saskatchewan. So anybody that knows Saskatchewan, Tegasky is halfway between Elbow and Eyebrow, Saskatchewan.
Man, that's the middle of nowhere, dude.
Yeah, just north of Moose Jaw. Like Elbow is on the elbow of Diefenbaker Lake, and then Eyebrow is just straight south. So
And then of course that's where you learn all the basics of how to put together the instrument.
Yes.
Now,
So basically, the course was a full semester. So it was like a 12-week course, and you start with design and finish with finish.
and how long? It was 12 weeks. Did you
12
use that
weeks.
that entire time building, or was there a lot of instruction type stuff, or it just took you that long to put it together?
Well, because it wasn't one-on-one. I was in a class with a couple of other guys. So every morning was a chalkboard session where we would go through that day's procedure, and then the afternoon we would follow through with the procedure. So
Okay.
it might have only been 10 weeks, but it was kind of like a semester of school.
I think what I'd like to do, Gilly, is I'm going to show a couple of the pieces that you have on the go, because people can see the internal side of what a guitar looks like, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up actually your Facebook. So for instance, I can see here, we're looking at what is a layout.
Yeah. So
You've
as I
chosen the wood
mentioned,
here.
starting with the finish in mind. So that is the top, the back, and the sides.
It says mango. Is that literally mango wood, like from a mango tree, or is there a different?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Also, I mean, when you look at something, where is it? Some folks might not know what the inside of a guitar looks like, but this is, of course, a Gilmore electric,
Yeah,
which
that's a Strat
you
guitar.
do build. But I mean, the craftsmanship that goes into this is incredible. But the acoustic side of things is where it really blows my mind.
Yeah, if you keep scrolling, you're going to see some pictures of the inside of acoustic guitars. Scroll a little bit farther. So there's a back.
Yeah, here we go. So the
there.
ribbing, even in this, if you look at the craftsmanship of that, I mean, is this something that's been going on for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years? Like the design sort of remains the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the acoustic guitar essentially hasn't changed much since, the mid 1800s.
Wow, really? That's
So
cool.
so the idea really hasn't changed, but there has been tons and tons of advancement in technology and procedures. So I build in a very traditional sort of way. As you can see that guitar there, I build on a board. It's just, and I don't use molds, so I build in a free form fashion. And
That's incredible. Those are all clothespins that you've elastic banded or something.
Yeah, that's the C2 clamp.
I love it.
So what's happening there is those clothespins I'm gluing on the kerfing around the inside of the side, and that's going to be the surface area for the back to glue to.
Oh, okay. That's fascinating, man. I mean, the
So
even-
there's a top that's I'm carving braces on
I
there.
believe this here, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when you're carving these away, to me, from the outside looking in, would just put couldn't you just put the flat sticks across? What is the point of taking the time to chisel this all the way you have?
So what I'm doing there is I'm tuning the top. So everything is glued on square. You can see in the top left of that picture, the braces are glued on square onto the back, and then once they're glued on, then I carve them. So there's a process of tap tuning. So you hold the top up and you tap it and you listen to the tone, and you're not necessarily looking for an actual pitch, but you're looking for a quality of tone, a quality of the attack of the tone, the decay or the sustain of the note as you tap it, and in different parts of the top. So I have a bit of a muscle memory of the tone that I'm looking for when I'm carving braces on the top. So there's a consistency in all of the guitars that I build, because
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that's something you can't train. You can't train an ear for that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, is that something that's a natural talent?
Well, I mean, I train myself. I think I think anything can be taught, but I think there's a matter of developing a sense of what it is that you're going after.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? I think you can develop an ear
Yeah.
for that. I think everybody can play a guitar. You can teach anybody to play a guitar, but not everybody is going to, become a guitar player.
There it is.
Right.
Now,
The charcuterie telly.
the reason why I love that so much is because as soon as my wife and I saw it, I was like, oh my God, I need Gilly to just build me the base so that I can use that literally for our household cutting board, which might sound, dastardly compared to the work that goes into something like that. But
the thing about there, you can see the if you just scroll back down
here it is.
Right there. That's the blank. That's the body just laid out before I glued it all together. So that's all wood that was just in my stash that was probably going to end up in my fire pit. And I thought,
wow,
wait a second, I can do this. So I built the first one, and and if you scroll down, the first one is going to be in there somewhere. But
I don't know.
So I built the first one and I sold it before it was finished because somebody just dug it enough. And then I built the second one because I had enough to do a second one, and the second one was gone within a week too. So
one of the things we have to touch on too, this gentleman here, I couldn't remember his name.
That's Cody.
But he took something that a lot of folks might be interested in, and that's the Gilmore Guitars student program. It's a build your own guitar program.
That's correct, yes.
And you can choose to either build an acoustic or, like we have here, this electric piece.
Yeah, he's the only one so far that has built an electric guitar, and he had a clear design in mind when we started. He knew exactly where he wanted to go and what he wanted to do.
This looks to be like a Gibson sort of knockoff here.
Yeah, it's kind of a hybrid between kind of a Les Paul and kind of a PRS sort of design.
Mm-hmm.
It turned out to be a really great guitar. He did really nice work.
Well, if you look at some of the stain work, here, it's unbelievable. Yeah. But that's the other thing that I really love about your guitar as well, Gilly, is I gotta say, like, your finish for me in the particular guitar that I bought was the most interesting because it felt kind of like, when you buy a pool cue, and I'll use this for instance because people might know, and you have that sanded edge that's nice and smooth and it's not varnished. That's kind of the feel I had on the guitar that I ended up with. So
it's called Close to the Wood.
Oh, okay.
So it's on purpose. So you want to get a feel for the instrument when it's in your hands, right? So,
and that's, I think, one of the things I fell in love with right away was that particular that finish on it.
And the other thing about doing a finish like that is it's very, very thin. And when you have a thin finish, the guitar can vibrate properly.
If you think about it scientifically, I mean, that's really what sound is. It's just the vibration of the strings that are also the body of the guitar that are reverberating within it and creating an echo chamber that comes out. Am I doing that right? Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, I can use kind of an auto metaphor. Your hands are the gasoline, or the gas pedal, and the strings are the engine. The bridge is the transmission, and the top are the wheels on the ground.
Okay.
So
that's cool.
So your hand strums the strings vibrate. The vibration of the string vibrates that bridge, and the bridge transfers that vibration into the top, and the top is a soundboard. And as that top is vibrating, it's moving air out of the sound bowl.
I think one of the things that's fascinating for me, Gilly, and I haven't seen the process yet, really, is that curvature of that beautiful body of the guitar. In order to make the sides for that, you're steaming wood to manipulate it.
It's not necessarily steaming, but I do use heat. I built a jig for. It's essentially an easy bake oven. The heat source is 300-volt light bulbs. And if you go onto the thing there, onto the Instagram feed there's several pictures of the bending machine. So it's kind of like a hydraulic press. So you screw down the middle which bends the side into the waist area, and then I use springs to bend the lower and the upper bouts, and then get it all put together. I bend the binding and the sides all at the same time.
Okay.
And I do one side at a time, and then let them sit overnight. Take it out of the bender, assemble on the workboard, and bend another one. So
I got to ask you, the shape of, for instance, a violin or a guitar or these sorts of instruments hasn't changed in a long freaking time. Why? It is the shape of that, that sort of, it's obviously easier to sit on your leg when you're playing it, but is there a sound purpose to that as well, or is it just tradition?
It's hard to say. I mean, like in luthiery, there's no right and no wrong. Like you can do whatever you want.
Because you can do a round guitar, like a band, like a round.
Absolutely, one. You can build whatever you want. It's just tradition kind of informs the shape of the guitars of today. The first guitars were nylon string classical guitars. So they that evolved with the Martin company. The early Martin in the late 1800s, they developed a steel string guitar because what happened is people started to play in ensembles and bands, and they needed volume. Like a nylon string guitar just didn't have the volume. So that's when they started putting steel strings on, and then big bands in the 30s started coming around. So what did they do? They made arch tops that were a little bit louder. They were a little bit punchier and middier. Then they developed the magnetic pickup just for volume to stay with a band, right? But the sort of the idea has remained the same. It's just been developed. Mm-hmm. And my whole thing with building a guitar is I'm really old school, but I'm not traditional.
Okay.
Because I don't do a dovetail. I do a bolt-on style neck, because I don't care how great a guitar you have. You could have a $10,000 Martin or whatever. At some point in its long life, it's going to need a neck reset.
Yeah. And the neat thing about even a new guitar is it might need a little bit of a reset. For instance, mine, it's something called a truss rod, for those that don't know. And explain a little bit how that works, because I had to have mine adjusted because a brand new guitar, as you told me, you explained it great. It's learning how to be a guitar. It's kind of moving still when you play it and stuff. So the truss rod, when was that invented? I mean, that must have been...
The truss rod was probably invented in the 30s, maybe the 40s, in that era. They started the truss rod when they started using steel strings, because the steel strings took more tension to get to pitch. And with more tension, with no truss rod, necks would just start to bow. Mm-hmm. So you put the truss rod in there to hold them straight. And now the technology has evolved where truss rods are two-way adjustable. So you can adjust it up and down, which is really, really cool.
The best way to explain it is kind of like if you have the body of your guitar and your neck, right? They will do this or this, and your truss rod will be able to adjust it to that perfect spot that it's supposed to be.
Basically,
for those that wouldn't know.
Yeah, on the neck. So it's what we call relief. Mm-hmm. So if your fretboard was absolutely flat, you would play a G note, and the A flat is going to buzz because it's just flat. So you introduce a little bit of relief with the truss rod. So you just put a little bit of upward bow in it. So when you fret at the G on the 3rd fret, it's not going to fret out on the 4th fret, and so on up and down the fretboard. So that's called relief. And that's what truss rod is used for. Yeah,
it's a genius. It's genius whoever came up with it.
Yeah.
Going back to some of the materials that you use, I forgot to ask this. What are some of the most common that you would find in an acoustic guitar? And some of the pieces that you use, are they both for sound or cosmetics, or a little bit of one or the other? Because your wood rack you have in the back, which we'll experience shortly, I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, is maple a common thing? I mean, the old pine tree, or
I mean, I joke quite often. Some people will ask, what's your favorite wood to use, and I'll say the stuff that comes from trees. Commonly, acoustic guitars, that there is East Indian rosewood back and a spruce top. So
why do you mix? What's the purpose of that?
Well, rosewood is a very traditional material for acoustic guitars, going back to the early days of the Martin Company.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those dreadnoughts were made from Brazilian rosewood, and Brazilian rosewood is now illegal to use. It's illegal to harvest. It's illegal to sell.
Oh, wow.
So I have a guitar in my showroom that I built out of Brazilian rosewood, and the wood was harvested pre-1950 before.
Whoa.
So it was a really expensive piece of wood, and I ended up getting 2 guitars and a ukulele out of that plank. So, and,
Dave, are these single pieces, or are they glued down the middle?
They're glued down the middle. Both of those are book matched. So what book matching means is it's sawed open, and you open it up, and you put the edge together to get a book match. Like you can see that side there. When you put them together, you get that design out of the book match. So that wood right there is this guitar that's right behind me here.
Oh, let's see. Okay, well, grab it. You know what? Go ahead. Show us what kind of your pieces you have.
So, put my butteroos back in.
Yeah.
So this is that East Indian rosewood.
Oh my God, that's beautiful, dude.
So
yes,
and I'm not sure if you can tell, but the binding on this is bloodwood.
Okay, now explain what the binding is. Some people might not understand. That's the seam between. It's on the 90-degree joint, right?
Yeah. So the binding goes around the edge of the guitar. Now the reason for the binding is to seal the end grain in the top, because that is where moisture will leave.
Oh, okay.
Or that's how the humidity interacts with the guitar, right? So it's got a structural purpose, but it's also an adornment as well.
Well, because you can make it cosmetic, you could
sure.
probably use the same kind of wood or whatever, but why not make it a little interesting?
So
you bring up.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's bloodwood, but then there's a black, white, black strip in there that you can see, and then the butt have nice miters on.
Oh, that thing's got a great ass, dude.
So. Yeah.
Oh, and speaking of decorative, I mean, one of the things that's really interesting for me for an acoustic guitar, explain a little bit about why there's a design around the sound hole in the middle. I believe the rosette, and there's some people that might be watching that aren't guitar folks that don't understand what that's all about. By the way, Levi Cuss says, tell Dave to show the parlor I played on his podcast, and the rest doesn't matter. By the way, big shout out to Riley Anderson for those that are just tuned in.
Yeah, awesome.
David Gilmore from Gilmore Guitars, master luthier, talking about these incredible instruments. So go ahead. Sorry, the inside hole.
So it's called the rosette. So it is also a structural device, because when a guitar like this is strung to pitch, there's about 150 foot-pounds of pressure on the front of that bridge. So that's like a little guy. Yeah, there you go. So and there is that one there on this guitar.
Decorative, yes. But
what it does is, because there's that much tension, the top can tend to flutter and potato chip. So, and if you're playing big chords and it's fluttering, then it's you're going to get some undesirable wolf tones and that sort of stuff, and the top will start to potato chip and deform. So it's a structural device in the guitar.
By the way, if there's anybody watching that would like to come on with us and talk a little bit about a Gilmore if you do own one, feel free to just request it in the chat channel. I'll bring you on. We'll talk a little bit about what you're using from David Gilmore and how long you've had it and how it's held up, man. That's a
Levi's
beautiful...
owned a couple over the years.
Levi Cuss, yeah. By the way, fantastic artist. For those of you that don't know, you can find Levi Cuss pretty much anywhere on social media. He's got his own music out, and it's awesome. Levi, thanks for joining us, buddy.
I did a live at Gilmore Guitars podcast with Levi, and he played. So with the podcast, people, I get them to come to the studio here, take them into the showroom. They pick a guitar off of the wall, and that's what they use for the show.
Don Relly has a question for you, Dave.
All right.
What is potato chip?
So if the top starts to deform a little bit, it will start to cup a little bit and start to look like a potato chip.
Like a curved. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
I didn't want to ask because I didn't want to sound like an idiot because I've been a player my whole life. I was like, man, I don't want to be that guy.
You know, there's no dumb questions, just dumb people.
That's the truth, man. You bring up your podcast, Gilly.
Yeah.
You're and the cool thing about your podcast is people might not know that you are literally in your studio, which is located at Gilmore Guitars.
That's correct.
Your shop. Tell us, you had your podcast for a period of time in the past, and it kind of went away, but you've recently it's resurfaced. Yeah. And tell us where people can find it, what they would expect on your show.
Basically, the Live at Gilmore Guitars podcast, I treat it like a radio interview. I spent 30 years in radio. I mean, that's how you and I met each other back in the day. I left the Z and KG to open Gilmore Guitars 10 years ago. Actually, May 1st is my 10th anniversary.
Man, you got stones to walk away from a career you've been doing for so long. Like, seriously, though, like that takes some sack to do that.
Well, nobody's ever accused me of being smart. So the podcast I treat like a radio interview. And
right.
When I was on the air, that was actually one of the things I was good at was the artist interview. You know, I learned how to interview and how to ask questions and how to let artists answer questions and that sort of thing. So and
you're great. I just want to say, by the way, you're great at it. You're very good. I've seen a bunch of them. Wow. Like you could. It's nice to have a guy with your kind of musical knowledge and your relationship with the artist, but also to have that experience of the interview. You know what I mean? Because there is a little bit of an art to that.
I think so. I think there is. I mean, you've got it down.
I'm terrible.
It's a lot of fun to watch, and I love how loose it is too, right?
Yeah, well, that's it. This format is really fun for me because, you know, on air, yeah, I know, on air, it's pretty tight, like, you know, but this is really fun for guys like you and myself because it's free form. You can just have fun and talk about
absolutely
different things. What is this 10 stupid questions with Scott?
Scott Forbes, he's another multiple Gilmore guitar owner. And
oh, really?
Yeah.
Man, so the guy's got money then.
So he'll come by and ask about something that if he wants to do a modification or if he wants to do something this or that, and,
right?
You know, and he always goes, "Dave, I got another stupid question." So
I think that's one of the things we should mention though, as this is entirely one giant Gilmore Guitars advertisement, but in the coolest way. As if somebody had
so much.
Oh, no, it's no big deal. I love this. Is fascinating to me. But if people have a guitar that's been kicking around, for instance, you got Grandpappy's old beat up acoustic, okay? And it's kicking around the farm and, you know, you clean out the old house or whatever, and it just doesn't really work anymore. They can bring that to you, right? That's one of the skills that you have is you know all of the ins and outs of it to repair something like that.
Actually, when I first opened the shop 10 years ago, an old gentleman came into the shop and he was probably mid-70s, and he brought in this guitar and he was just kind of carrying it in his hands like this. And,
really?
It was a little parlor guitar. And actually, that was the guitar that I traced for my parlor guitar model that I build now.
Oh, I did not know that.
It was a Harwood, New York. So he told me the story about the guitar. The family had moved off of the farm, and the guitar was in a granary. He said that his mother, so he was 76, he said his mother brought it to Alberta from Nebraska in 1916.
Wow.
And it was Brazilian rosewood, it was an all solid guitar. And
like, holy shit, Dave, what kind of shape was this thing in?
It was very, very bad. I had to graft wood into the sides. I actually had to make a new top for it and fix it all up. And it was a journey. It took me a long time to pull it all together. And when
were you nervous, Dave? Like, were you nervous
Absolutely.
to touch a piece of history and not want
Absolutely.
to mess it up?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it was an expensive repair as well. I had just had another gentleman that had a guitar from 1910 that was demolished, and I said, I can probably fix it, but it's going to cost you, a lot of money.
Yeah.
And he's going, no, I can't do that, right? But this guy, when he came, this old gentleman, when he came to pick up the guitar, and I opened the case and showed him the guitar, he started crying because it was like he couldn't believe. And that guitar had mojo for days. It was so cool. It was like, once it was put together, like every once in a while, I had an old Martin. It was I think it was like a 1958 Martin D28 that somebody had really butchered. And
like, how do you mean? Like they just mistreated it?
Well, it needed a neck reset. What happens is, with, like I mentioned before, the tension will move things, and in a dovetail, it's kind of a wood on wood friction fit, right? So that wood will tend to compact with all that tension over the years, and the angle of the neck changes, and then it becomes unplayable because the strings are too high. So you do a neck reset. And what somebody had done, instead of doing a proper neck reset on it, they had put some carriage bolts through the bridge and just cut out big holes in the bridge to get the strings. So it was nasty. I've seen some crazy things.
What is wrong with people? Why would that be the option for you?
I did a neck reset. The guitar also was left in a trunk, and the trunk leaked some rain. So I had to do a French polish on the back and finish it all up.
Polish?
French
like,
polish?
I think I've had a French polish too, but I don't want to tell people where I got that because that place, I'm sure, is off the grid and business directory. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You ever had a French polish, man?
just wear your mask. That's all I'm saying.
Sorry, man. What's a French polish?
It's actually a procedure of finish using shellac and oil.
Shellac.
So shellac
sounds Jewish.
It comes from a beetle. So the shellac beetle, they will cover trees with all of this shellac. It's usually in rainforests, and then guys will go and they'll break all of the shellac down. Then they'll refine it. Then it comes in a flake, and you dissolve it in alcohol. So what happens is you use alcohol to dissolve it and turn it into a liquid form, and then you use like Johnson's baby oil or olive oil or something as a carrier, and you pour a little bit of oil into some wool and you rub it on. Yeah, and it's a very arduous, painstaking procedure. It's beautiful.
But yet another natural, probably historical ingredient that you're using. Yeah. By the way, are you a fan of House of Pain? Boom, shellac, boom. Come on. Okay, maybe forget it, man.
Dude, I'm old. I'm sorry.
Well, Dave, what I would like you to do, let's try this mobile thing. We tested this, okay? Because I wanted to share with folks that might not have seen it, David Gilmore's shop, which is incredible because there's obviously the front office, but it's a display room, and most of it is, in fact, just shop. So you go ahead and switch your your earbuds, and then I'll bring you on. That's right. Here on the Distillery, we're technologically savvy.
You just entertain the people while I.
That's right.
While I do this.
Okay. So we're going to take a little tour of the shop because it might be interesting to look at some of the tools and, of course, some of the pieces that are halfway through.
Okay.
Here we go. We've got the Gilly Phone Mobile.
All right.
I love this. This is great. Let's go. Take us on a little tour, baby.
Okay. So this is the showroom right now. So
Explain
these
to
are
us a little bit about the different finishes and the different woods that we're looking at here, Dave.
Well, okay, where are we here? So this guitar here is actually a baritone, and what I did with this finish is I put a little pin drop of black aniline dye in the sanding sealer and kind of got that barnwood feel to it. So if I back up,
Explain
you
a
can
little
see-
bit what a baritone is there, Gilly.
It's a longer scale, so it's got a 27-inch scale length, and it's got bigger strings, and it's tuned down to B, so it's much lower.
Oh,
A regular
wow, that is
guitar.
deep.
Yeah, so it's cool. So, and then just there
These
we go.
models too. Is this your standard sort of Gilly? This is what you would expect from a regular Gilly getter.
So here, let's just do this one here. So this is the one that Chad was talking about.
Mhm.
This is the Brazilian rosewood parlor.
Oh, wow.
So, and this.
Oh, wait,
pickup-
Levi Cuss. There he is.
Yeah. So this pickup was custom made by MJS Pickups in Mississauga, Ontario. I had him custom make that because it's a smaller sound hole, and because of the vibe that I had with the finish, I was going for a vintage sort of looking style for that pickup,
That's
kind of an
cool.
old DeArmond kind of style.
For those that don't know, Gilly, explain maybe what a parlor is. A parlor guitar is essentially just a smaller acoustic, right?
Yeah, it's a smaller guitar. They called them parlor guitars because ladies would play them in the parlor. That was the idea. Yeah. So
I didn't know that. Okay.
a parlor guitar is this one. My model are 13 inches across the lower bout.
Mhm.
So this one over here is also a parlor guitar, and it's a 12 string.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful rosette on that, Gil. Can
So-
you get a close up of that? What is that? That is amazing.
Everything's backwards when I'm looking at this now.
Yeah,
There you go.
sorry.
So
That's beautiful, dude.
that rosette is Box Elder.
Okay.
So this guitar is the brother to your guitar because this olive wood is the same as your guitar. That's the back of that.
It's beautiful. Is it finished the same as mine with that? You called it a close finish where it's just a very light finish. It's not a heavy lacquering on it.
No, yours actually has a very thin water-based finish on it, much the same as this one here. This guitar here is much the same as yours. It's the same model. This is a standard. This is a Model A.
How do you know the difference? Like, is there a dimensional thing?
Yes. So
Because they look the same to me, man.
the three models, the parlors are 13 inches. The Model A's are 14 inches. The standards are 15 inches, and the standard jumbos are 16 inches.
Now, Gilly, the reason between the size difference, is it a sound preference or is it a fit preference?
That's an LG2.
That's cool.
Yes, to all of those questions.
Okay, so it's all of that.
Yes.
Now here we go. We're in the shop. We're doing
So
it.
we're going into the shop. So this is just kind of a slow turn around.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can see it if I'm holding.
It's amazing
it
what you can do in such a small space, dude.
So this machine here is the beast. It's a big bandsaw, and as you can see, it's a working shop. There's dust all over. This one is a smaller bandsaw here that I use to do a lot of quicker work. I can cut curves and stuff with this one with a smaller blade. My drum sander, and then two benches. Where are we here? That bench there is my repair bench, and this bench over here is my building bench. So what I've got is a couple of guitars, or one guitar here.
Yeah, show us what you're working on,
process.
Gil. What are we looking at here?
So where are we? There. So,
You're getting better at it. You're figuring it out. Yeah.
so I just installed the rosette in this top, and this is that mango wood.
Mm-hmm.
So I glued it together so it's book matched. You can see, so it was opened up and book matched. But look at the figure in that.
So when you're looking at the grain, Gilly, you as a wood guy would be able to tell what's going to make a fairly picturesque piece. You know, I'm blown away by how little equipment you need. Like a lot of your stuff is literally the old school hand crafting. Like it's hand tools and like,
So-
look at that. Yeah.
Like this here was my dad's chisel, and when he passed
cool.
away, I got it in a toolbox, and it was beat up. He was a farmer. It had, he would pry nails with it, and it took me a couple hours to clean it up, but it's become my favorite chisel. But this is the chisel that I use to where are we here? To carve braces and stuff.
Very cool.
So yeah,
it's good
all,
steel.
yeah. And this one here.
This is your newest project. Yes. Tell us a little bit about, because you do build electrics for those that are curious.
I do, yeah. So this is a Strat. The pickups in here are a Dominger boutique hand wound. Dominger is out of Belton, South Carolina, and he just builds fantastic pickups. So Wenge fretboard, mahogany body. It's a hardtail. Now I'm a huge fan of hardtail Strats. Most Strats here we go, have a tremolo system on them.
Yep.
But I love the hardtails because
Now, why?
Every Strat I've ever owned, I've never put the whammy bar in because, well, I'm not that good. And my buddy Tom Petty over there.
Petty, yeah.
I stole that poster from the very first radio station's music library that I worked at CFSL in Weyburn, Saskatchewan.
That's awesome.
So I've had that forever. So that's kind of the shop.
I love it.
And up here, this is the entrance. And I just want to take a second to show you that.
Yes.
So this is
tell
a
us
charity.
about Guitars for Kids. Yeah.
So Don Routley was asking about potato chips, but Don Routley and I we formed a committee where we take donations of old used guitars that people aren't using anymore, and we give them to families that can't afford guitars.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's beautiful.
About 3 years.
What are some of the, like, I mean, do they have to be kids? Can they be a 21-year-old? Like, what's the age sort of range? Or
actually, honestly, we could call it Guitars for People, because we've given guitars to senior citizens,
okay,
older teenagers and that sort of stuff.
Shall we switch you back? Should we switch you back? Okay, we're going to switch them back. I just want to tell you, Guitars for Kids is an incredible program. One of the things that's really important, folks, is you can bring in your old acoustic or whatever. Maybe somebody left it behind if they've passed, or maybe somebody bought one and it just sat around for a long time and you're not using it. Rather than destroying that instrument, or even if you think it's fairly, it's out of shape in a sense that, I mean, Gilly can repair that and make sure it gets in the hands of a kid that wouldn't be able to afford it otherwise. Now, the reason why I bring up the age thing, Gilly, is I had a young fellow. He's 21 years old, and I'd lent him my equipment because he really wanted to learn guitar, and I had to actually get some of it back because it was going to somebody else who wanted it from me. So if he wanted a guitar and he is serious about it, he can come by Guitars for Kids, and you can at least look at an application form or something.
So
right?
how we do it, we've got a website. It's called guitarsforkids.ca, and guitars and kids are spelt with a Z instead of S. So it's guitars with a Z and kids with a Z.ca.
Mm-hmm.
You can go there and click the contact us. It's essentially an email. And you tell us your story. You just let us know why you need a guitar for your kid, or if you're the person that's asking for yourself. And we're a committee of 5 people. So there's me, there's Don Routley, Jim Claggett, who is a longtime journalist.
What a beauty. I love that guy. Jim Claggett's great.
Matt Saylor, who's an RCMP officer, and Shelley Hager, who is a realtor here in town. So we're a committee of 5, and every request that we get for a guitar goes to the entire committee, and it has to be a majority rule decision on whether we give a guitar away or not. And I think in 3 years we've only not given a guitar away once.
Right.
And we've got some really great partners as well.
Okay, yeah, mention them. No, get all your shout outs, baby.
Yeah,
Who's that?
Kathy and Steve over at Long and McQuaid Music here in town.
They're great people. Yeah.
Yeah, they're awesome. If we need like a ukulele and we don't have anything, they'll sell one to us at cost or whatever. So we get really good deals. Mitch Day over at Day's Music, the same thing. He's just a great guy. So both of the music stores in town have been really great. Ben Waven it owns a building on 49th Street where A Plus Art Gallery is. And
I don't know it. How do I not know this? I've been here forever.
It's right across the street from the Williki Clad Center.
Oh, the Willakluke. Okay, I know where you're talking about.
So Ben has given us a room to store guitars at no charge. Okay. So it's so awesome that he did that. So just guys like that.
The community, around music is one of the things I love the most about being a player myself and in a band and stuff, because you always bump in. It's a natural thing to bump into other musicians at venues and stuff. And you find these incredible people that for the most part are usually fairly giving. And usually when there's a project to be done, it's never too hard to ask somebody, hey, I really need a bass player on this, which you've done for me too, Gilly. You're an incredible musician yourself, which brings me to one of our final points on the show, Gil. I really want to, we've been talking about instruments the whole damn time. We've barely freaking heard one. So can you maybe grab a couple of the different ones you've got kicking around and explain the tone and explain some of the...
So this one here is a Model A, and that's the...
Now, why is it called that? Is that the first design sort of?
So the Model A is the plan that I drew and built at Luthier School.
Oh, okay.
And the reason I call it the Model A is because my wife's name is Adrian, and her good friends and family always called her A. So
it works. It's beautiful.
I
think you're full of shit, Gilly. I think you told her that after you called it A because it's the first letter of the alphabet.
No, because she let me go. Well, she didn't let me go. I was going to go, but
they always do. They're in control.
The truth of the matter is, no Adrian, no Gilmore guitars.
There it is,
and that's the truth. She is the most supportive person in the world, and I just love her to death. So
thank you, Adrian, because I love my guitar. Thank you.
So this model is the Model A. Now I built it at Timeless. This is the plan that I drew. Then I stopped building it for several years because I was kind of on the hunt for what was going to be a Gilmore guitar, standard.
Like
Gilmore
when you
guitar.
think of a Gilmore, like you need. Okay, I got you.
So the guitar that you have is called the Gilmore Standard, and I called it the Standard because that is going to be the standard Gilmore guitar. And then the Jumbo is the standard Jumbo, which is the standard just blowing up.
16 was it?
Yeah, 16.
16.
So, yeah,
I'm learning, folks.
And yours is 15. So about 3 years into being open again, I built a couple of the Model A's. I thought, I'm going to pull this plan out because I drew the plan. It's not a copy of anything. The Standard and the Standard Jumbo and the Model A are not copies. I drew them, moving lines and until I built one and I sold it, and I built another one and sold it. And I'm going, maybe I'm onto something. So I added it to the regular roster,
the repertoire, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's hear it. Strum that thing for me, Dave. What does it sound like? As I mentioned, Dave's a hell of a player, man. All right, there's another guitar you had behind you.
Yeah.
Do you have that crazy awesome 12 string? kicking
There's
around.
also still in the showroom.
Okay, what's the other one you have?
So this is the standard jumbo with the East Indian rosewood back and sides. So this guitar is it's going to be louder because just more volume. When I say volume, I'm talking about the volume of air inside the body.
Right. Oh wow! Yeah. I gotta tell you, Dave. Like as soon as you strummed it, like your mic picks it up. So it honestly is really loud. It's loud.
Yeah, this is a loud.
But mind you, have great mics there in
yeah.
at Gilmore Guitars. Isn't this the dumbest thing though? Like as soon as you start playing, and I bet you a lot of people watching right now that are players themselves or just music lovers, you could just sit there for like, this is why a bunch of dudes or girls sitting around a campfire just strumming hours of entertainment.
Yeah.
It's nonstop.
Yeah. I just wish I could sing.
Oh, dude, you're great. Come on.
That was one of the things that kind of stopped me from pursuing being on the road back in the day. I don't know if you can see this picture right over my head.
Which where? Okay.
Right over my head.
Yeah.
So that one right there.
The black and white one.
Yeah. So that's the band that I was on the road with back in the early 80s.
Cool. What was your name?
The name of that band was Rough Edge.
Yeah.
And it was
That's
rough.
awesome.
But, we did everything. We would play, the middle of the road by the Pretenders. Then we play Fly By Night by Rush. And then we do Separate Ways by Journey. And we do, Got Another Thing Coming. And
Yeah.
Damn
it. Who sang that?
Judas Priest, baby.
I mean, no, like, did you
Oh
sing
no,
that?
we had a female singer. So and she nailed it all so she nailed everything from Chrissy Hine to Steve Perry to Geddy Lee.
She was singing Steve Perry. Listen, man, I don't attempt Steve Perry. Nobody should attempt. Listen, stop trying to sing Steve Perry at karaoke night. You're not good. You can. Nobody can do Steve Perry except for Steve Perry and apparently the singer that David Gilmore was with.
Yeah, she was really good.
He's incredible. I mean, maybe not so much anymore because I've heard his new stuff, but
I haven't heard it.
It's not good. Don't do it.
No. That's too bad. He was a great singer. There was some of that stuff was really good. Oh, good. Tony's going to pull up the guitar and sing.
Well, I want to show you a little bit. We talked a little bit about the brother to it.
Yeah.
And if you look, this is the thinnest acoustic guitar I've ever played. Is there a specific reason why it's that way?
Are you talking about the depth of the body?
Right, like this. Yep.
Yeah. Well, it's also a little bit smaller. The jumbo is deeper as well, right? So.
Now I don't want to overprocess or anything. How's that sound? Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Or does it sound like it's coming through a mic on the internet? Probably. But I want to tell you a little story, folks. Okay, so I've been in and out of Dave's shop for some time, and I had picked up some guitars in the showroom, and there wasn't anything that I particularly immediately fell in love with, but they were all great instruments. It's just I wasn't ready yet. But then the one day I walked in, I can't remember why I was there anyway.
You came and did the podcast with your band. And you chose that guitar to do the podcast.
But it was before that. It was the date or 2 days before we did the podcast. Right. So I stopped in and I just grabbed something off the rack. And it was this guy right here. And I do what every guitar player does, just put on a chord and still right now, man, there is a particular tone or something. I don't know if it's
resonates on your body.
Like, why? Like, is it because everybody hears music differently and something just grabs, like a tone or something grabs them because my high-end ears are dead and this thing fills it out or something?
Like guitars are kind of like puppies. They'll pick you.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you can go to a guitar shop and play every guitar in the wall, and you'll pick up, a cheap Jap guitar, and that'll be the one you fall in love with. And there's no reason other than that guitar speaks to you for some reason.
That's it. And I went home and I told my wife, and I'm like, I just played the most beautiful guitar I've ever heard in my freaking life. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I went to Dave's. I played it with that guitar I was telling before. Yeah. And she's like, wow, are you asking to buy it? I'm like, well, at least come listen to it. Right. You remember, I dragged her into the shop and I picked it up and I'm like, Dave, this is the one, right? Here we go. And I started playing it and she's like, quiet for a couple of minutes. She goes, finally she breaks and goes, it does sound nice. So we had a period of debate time, Dave, as you remember. It's like I put it back on the rack and she was like, well, we'll talk about it, yada yada. Yeah,
I think I left you guys in the showroom with a shut door for a while. Yeah. Back to the shop. So yeah.
And then it was a week later, or was it a couple of days? It wasn't that long. Sure enough, we're back in the shop. Now my wife's trying to hustle Dave for, I want that case, I want this, I want that all. But I love it. Dave, to this day, it's still the most incredible piece of not only craftsmanship, but inspiration musically. And I mean that seriously. When I pick this thing up, music comes out of me, man, and I write songs.
I was just going to say, what I love about that guitar and you is you're sitting down and you're writing songs, so songs are coming out of it. So what me as a builder, I know that I've done my job when a guitar that I've built has inspired somebody to write a song with it. Mm-hmm. That means I've done my job.
Now I'm gonna fuck it up, but I wanted to perform the very first song I ever wrote with this thing. Okay. It's an idea that I had sitting around for about 2 years, and I'm only going to give you about a verse and a chorus because I'm not going to. This isn't. Nah, nobody wants to hear the whole thing. It sucks. I wish you could play the bass along with it, but it's a song that I wanted to write for our West Country, and I have I think all of us that have enjoyed the mountains and stuff like that just have this warm connection to it. But I wanted to tell the story from our own perspective. So through this entire song, there's little hints at little stops that you would make along the way that I think anybody from Red Deer going through Rocky all the way to the mountains might understand. Everybody else in the world might not get it. So I'm going to adjust my mic and you're going to help me here, Dave.
And I remember Denver Swainson of the Frank heard the song and it spoke to him immediately.
Yeah. He's that's a heads up. He is going to record it with the Frank. I'm also going to do my own version. But I love it so much. I mean, anybody that wants to play it, I can send you chords and tabs and lyrics. Absolutely. Go ahead and play it. How's this sound, Dave? Is it overpowering my vocal?
No.
All right. There we go. Burn Lake souls, a convoy rolls, bottleneck lanes take us home. Westbound on the Messier, necessary twin pump delay. Beneath the Coliseum we will roam, looking down at the sky. Feel like a smaller man, shot from mountain asking why I always return to this land. Spread my ashes here where the water meets the sand. Pour a whiskey for Abraham. I'm going to leave it there, and the reason why is there was a much better take that is available on the Gilmore Guitars page, where Denver did he did some great slide guitar on there. Your own David Gilmore did the bass on it, and I was just sitting around strumming in the background. And I want you to go hear the whole thing.
He did a really great harmonica solo in it as well.
Oh, it still moves my heart, man.
And we got it to sound kind of off and kind of in the distance. Turned out pretty good.
It was fantastic. You know what? You were fantastic, man. I thank you so much for joining. We could seriously talk about guitars for days and all the little intricate details that come into it. Your shop is incredible. And one of my favorite parts for anybody that's watching that hasn't been to Gilmore Guitars, please go in and enjoy the shop, because you'll find yourself sitting in the back having a coffee, strumming a guitar, and talking to a man that's running some chisels in the corner. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like a little musician hangout.
It is. And, some Fridays or Saturdays, it can be, pre-COVID. But there's been times.
There's going to come a time. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I think when we can, on a Saturday afternoon, when there's no other businesses around, I'm going to pull out the PA system, and I think we're going to, blow out the jams out there.
Some really important stuff before we go, Gil. Where can people find your page, your product? Is it a Facebook page? Is it a website? How can people check out your podcast? All of that. I want you to really give everybody the details here.
GilmoreGuitars.ca. You can see on the hat there, GilmoreGuitars.ca. And on the website, there's pages, so you can click on there for the podcasts. You can purchase guitars online. So there's also financing available. Very important. Yes,
I get it. Gilly has an incredible product, and it's priced in a way that makes sense. You can get financing. Do it. Get yourself a real instrument. Sorry, Gilly, go ahead. I wanted to let people know.
Very much. Yes, I do offer financing. It's actually a Canadian company called Finance It, and they're great to work with. The rate's not bad. So if you want to amortize over 3 years, easy peasy, and you'll know within 10 minutes whether you're approved or not. Facebook, I've got a couple of things on Facebook. Gilmore Guitars, Gilmore Guitars Inc. If you just search Gilmore Guitars Inc. And there's also a page it's a group called Gilmore Guitars Chat, where you're a part of too, where I've invited Gilmore guitar owners to come and tell their stories.
Show people.
Yeah. And I'm on Instagram. And it's at Gilmore_guitars on Instagram, and the same thing on Twitter. So there it is. Yeah, Gilmore Guitars Chat. So
look at me, I'm doing it.
Yeah. There it is. So, I wish I was better at social media. It's really, really hard to be good at it. Like there's this TikTok and there's another new one, and it's like,
You know what? Honestly, Gil, there's enough people, I think. As you called it, the Gilmore Guitars family. You can see them in the chat. They're hanging out. They're enjoying the instruments that you've built, and it's changed probably. For me, it changed the way I play. I was an electric guy and doing really heavy stuff for a long time. And I found after I grabbed your guitar that I went back to my roots again. And then you start strumming out, songs about the mountains and Lake Abraham and stuff. That's what happens, man. So if people are interested in either, and you can get an electric guitar from Gilmore.
Yeah, but I think Tellys and Strats, and I also designed two. Denver Swainson has two little. He got the last two little Gs. I have to build a couple more for the showroom. And I do another model called the LG2, which is kind of the evolution of the little G. So,
that reminds me that the current piece that you're working on, when is it going to be completed and be on sale? On sale, because I have a funny feeling, my man, that it is not going to take long for that thing to.
The Strat.
There it is.
So it should be done next week. I'm just waiting on the tuning machines. I've ordered GraphTech ratios. I put the GraphTech ratios on everything that I build. Another Canadian company, Dave Dinwoody, started GraphTech, and the Tusk nuts and bridge pins, and so
it's beautiful, dude. It's so simple, but it's just beautiful. Like, I love it.
Yeah, and the pickups in this particular guitar are Domager pickups. He's a boutique hand winder from Belton, South Carolina. Great dude. He's one of those guys I can get on Messenger and say, "Hey, Joe, this is kind of what I'm looking for," and he'll just, he just zeroes right in on what I'm after. So I've been fortunate that I've partnered with a couple of great boutique people. Here
Dude, they're probably
me,
fortunate to work with you, buddy. Like,
Uh,
you're an incredible craftsman.
I'm
Unbelievable.
not sure you can see it, but this
I love it.
amplifier behind me is a hot wire amplification amplifier.
Oh, yes.
Handcrafted in Stettler, Alberta by Stephen Powell. I have a link on my website to the hot wire amplification site. He makes the cabinets. He builds the chassis. He does these straight from the ground up, and he also does repairs. He does 2 amp repair.
I've got some equipment in with him right now,
He's
honestly.
he's a Scottish dude. He's a great guy, and he builds amazing amplifiers. So
do yourself a favor. People can come in that room,
Yes.
right? That baffled room, and they can test that amp out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I have 2 of them here. There's that one there is an all walnut cab, and there's another tweed one here. They're both 5E3 models. So,
Gilly, before we go, is there any parting words you have for people maybe interested in trying something new or checking out, your shop or whatever it might be? The floor is yours. Go ahead before we go.
I just I understand that I'm a handcrafter, and as a handcrafter, I'm charging a premium price, and I get it. It's not for everybody.
It's worth it.
But
Every penny.
But when you're ready, I'll be here.
I love it.
And thank you so much for saying that. And quite frankly, in the handcraft world, my prices are probably about half of what they should
It's
be.
true.
But I can only charge what the market will bear. So I think the most expensive guitar that I have in the showroom is $5,000, and that's that Brazilian rosewood parlor guitar with the pickup.
And it's awesome.
It's
Man,
amazing.
is it cool?
It's the Levi Cuss podcast.
Yep.
He played that guitar. Denver Swainson played that guitar on his podcast.
I was actually remember at one point I was going to use that for when we were doing our Iron Buffalo album with Donnie Smith.
Yeah.
There was an acoustic part. I was considering using that too.
But you ended up playing it all wrong.
I don't know. I did it with an electric. I did it with a Les Paul, but
And
my bad.
It's all good.
All right, Gil, you stay right there. Don't go anywhere. For everybody that tuned in, I just want to thank you so much for checking us out on the Distillery. We have a fun time where we're talking about a pile of different things, whether it's music or handcrafted this or somebody that's just in a certain scene that's interesting. And I really appreciate everybody that tuned in and commented. Do me a favor, though. If you don't like and subscribe, it really bones me. So I would appreciate it if you did it on our YouTube channel. Also, I think it would be really fun because I know there's a lot of players out there that have their own mics and stuff like this. We should just do maybe some jams where we sit around and there's maybe 4 people on the screen. We just rotate song by song and have a good time. What do you guys think? Would that be fun? Would you do something like that? I think it'd be rad. Gilmore Guitars, an incredible craftsman, David Gilmore, an incredible human being, and Guitars for Kids is another thing that you need to look into, whether you need a guitar or at the very least, if you can support that cause, I would really appreciate it. This has been another episode, man. The Distillery. I'm going to shut the mother down. I'm going to take off. Enjoy yourself. And remember, if you want to reach us, X Marks TV, Pod X, we would love to do a show with you for whatever your idea is.
Next time on The Distillery.
Hey, friends, we're looking for our next guests on The Distillery. Do you know somebody that would be great for a show, or do you have a great show idea? Email us at xmarkstv@gmail.com. And who knows, maybe your show idea will be the next episode.